I'm Al Capone, see? You might recognize me from the papers or the moving pictures, or as that guy that visits your mom when your dad's working at the packing plant. You might even know me from my totally legitimate business ventures. But what you might not know is how much work goes into building an empire like this. It took a lot of work, you know, paying out the coppers, moving all that hooch, and sometimes pushing out the competition. My one mistake was failing to pay my taxes and failing to get a guy with a lot of vowels or a precious metal in his last name to keep my books. This Valentine's date could have been a write-off. Don't make my mistakes. Call Tax Network USA today and tell them Scarface sent you. Die, motherfucker! Go to tnusa.com/Crowder and let them take care of business by taking care of your business.
Trump is president again. He's gonna make America great again.
Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Click Rumble Premium and join now for $99 annually or $9.99 a month to get the entirely ad-free experience and exclusive content from Louder with Crowder, Nick DiPaolo, Mr. Guns and Gear, Donald Trump Jr., and an ever-expanding roster of content, creators, and free speech. I have whiplash from the winning at such breakneck speed. I tricked him out because Gerald knows I have a bad neck and back and everything. Yeah, you were concerned because you're a good person, and I used it against you. I hope you've learned this lesson.
I have, yeah.
We have a lot to get to today. PBS is shuttering DEI. I never thought I would see the day. I don't know what it is without DEI. Gulf of America. People are talking about this, but this is, again, the cultural shift that we are seeing. Remember, we went through an era of tearing down statues, changing names, being ashamed of our heritage. That's the shift. It's not just about the Gulf of America versus Mexico, because America is better than Mexico, and I understand. Just stop. The point is, the principle matters, that we should be proud of who we are as this country, where we are now, where we're going, and that is a different approach, different policy. Also, bad policy, South Africa. Many of you may not know why we're effectively going to be cutting off aid to South Africa. You think they need it. You think we should do it. Let me ask you this, and this is my question to you. Do you realize that if we give money, if we just hand over a blank check to evil people, that that's not actually charity? That we're an accessory to murder, to genocide, to theft? Do you understand that? Just because you give some money to someone, that's not an indulgence. It doesn't absolve you of your sins, especially if you're handing over money for someone to commit an act of evil. And we are done with that in the United States of America. And since we'll be talking about South Africa, a lot of racial tensions there. At some point, due to some epithets, you will likely see this on YouTube. I make no apologies. Head on over to Rumble. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Eastern, including Fridays. Captain Morgan, CEO, was with me as always, and Mr. Josh Firestine. You guys doing well?
Yeah.
Like the South Africa?
I do. I don't care what you have to say anymore.
Peace for South Africa.
Against me.
Peace, yeah.
That's what I say, brew.
Good luck.
My brew.
That's better than Leonardo DiCaprio.
Ah.
Anybody's.
He was Australian and still a little bit of Gilbert Grape. I don't know. South Africa, Gilbert.
Mama, why are they taking our farm? Wake up.
It fits. It fits.
My farm makes me happy. Now, before we get into that, feminists have to ruin everything. Not women. Feminists have to ruin everything. And there is a bill in Ohio. I don't know if you know this. You can comment. Do you believe that we have a real problem here in this country where men have full reproductive rights and women don't? Because that's the premise of this bill. Now, I believe the bill is officially called the Contraception Begins at Erection Act, but the media is referring to it as Conception Begins at Erection.
Both ways. So the bill technically is called Contraception Begins at Erection, which, okay.
Yeah, tie them things off, boys.
Yeah.
If that's true, then my teenage years, my jeans pocket was the cradle of civilization.
Yes.
A little mini universe there.
Yeah. Is that a ruler in your pocket? No, that's Ethiopia.
Yeah.
That makes you a god.
Yes, it does.
I created a nation a week.
They're like Prometheus, and by the way, same proportions. Now,
Okay.
so in Ohio, and I guess Mississippi, which surprised me, Democrats, and by that I mean feminists, radical feminists, they proposed this bill to make it a crime for men. If you have children, they shouldn't be in the room right now just because if you haven't had the birds and the bees talk. Okay, 3, 2, are they gone? A crime for men to ejaculate without intending to have a child.
All right, a warning up front about this next story, okay? It may not be suitable for young children to hear, so just take a moment on that.
He's covering his boner
We're talking
now.
about a new bill in Columbus. It's getting a lot of attention. It's nicknamed the Conception Begins at Erection Act.
Columbus Bureau reporter Morgan Trout explains it's an attempt to expand the conversation about unplanned pregnancies and whether men should be held accountable as well. One more reminder,
Child support.
This report does use technical language.
They're not? Fair is fair, right? If this legislator is so dedicated to regulating women's bodies and their access to contraceptives and abortion care, then let's start policing
That guy doesn't
them
have
in
sex
the
with
same
women.
way.
No.
After all, it does take two to tango, right?
He is an insult to any other man who has wood in their name.
That's right.
I didn't notice
Lakewood.
that.
Yeah. This all might be the work of Big Blue Chew, by the way. Now, so the proposal here is by the left to counter the pro-life movement. They're trying to say that abortion laws are nonsense and that men aren't held accountable, which is, of course, the opposite of reality. Men don't have the option to abort. Men don't have the option to be involved in any reproductive decisions beyond ejaculation. And this is simply about penalizing men, penalizing, I guess,
Hey, all right.
You're a
for
child.
ejaculation. And in the off chance that this was somehow actually signed into law, keep your eyes peeled for the Pervert Patrol, or PP. They plan to enforce it.
Cuffs come in different sizes.
That's
That's
looks
not
angry.
They need to get Ethiopian / Prometheus size.
They really do.
No, that one's just about. That one's just about right.
Well, that's Ohio size.
It's not
I'm sorry,
chili.
Ohio.
It's just sauce.
It's for the Asian.
Ohio. So both states' bills would make it a felony to discharge genetic material without intent to procreate. And it would actually subject men to fines up to $10,000 per offense.
Wow.
Here's the deal.
Some people are broke right now.
Women have 5 choices right now as it relates to reproductive rights. Abstinence. Okay, chastity, abstinence. Adoption. Contraception. What's the other one that I'm thinking? Oh, motherhood. Abortion. We have a problem with the 5th, but you still got these 4 choices. Men, if the woman is pregnant, have no other choices. None. Now, I don't think that a man should ever ejaculate and not be willing to take care of that child, just to be clear. But to act as though it is not entirely a one-way street right now is the problem with the feminist mindset of perpetual victimhood. There has never been a more exempt, elevated social class throughout all of human history than Western women who claim to be victimized so much. They have every advantage humanly possible, and now we want to punish men. It already happens, by the way. You may not know this. There have been plenty of men out there who've been forced to pay child support for children that aren't even theirs.
Yeah, have you watched Maury?
Yeah. Not
Yeah,
even.
exactly.
2003, an example, Texas man had to pay $65,000. Child wasn't his. Michigan, $30,000. Child he did not have.
Wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, he was actually in prison when the child was conceived.
What? How do you get that detail wrong?
Well, I mean, you gotta, work on your math.
In Florida, you have a man who was ordered to pay child support, even though the DNA proved that the child was not his. And what happens is a woman in these scenarios, right, tricks a man, lies. The man tries to do the right thing and pay for that child. Then when he finds out he's been lied to, the man is the one who is berated and guilted, as though he's doing something wrong. You already have child support. You already have to. Men are on the hook, and men have no say in it. I would be okay, let's say, with this, if it requires both parents to consent to an abortion. My penis, my choice. And the equivocation, which is, right, there's the idea of abortion and, ejaculate being effectively criminalized. In fact, it'd be a class 3 weapon.
Old folks' homes are going to start panicking.
Yes, they are.
Oh, my gosh.
Anything else to... Well, you guys can let me know what you think. But does anyone actually believe this? Does anyone actually believe that women have foregone reproductive rights and men are in the driver's seat? I just don't think that even would resonate with mainstream Americans at this point.
And by the way, you don't have to be, I would say abstinent until married, would be my position. But let's just say that you don't hold my position. You don't have to be abstinent with everybody. Just say no occasionally. Right. And that would be... Yeah. You would limit the other choices you would have to make on the 5.
Right. Well, is there any type of punishment or fine for a woman who has sex without the intent to conceive?
Not at all. In fact, there's a lot of exemptions. There's exemptions for, if you're using protection, if you're married or whatever. There's also exceptions for if you are part of the LGBT community.
Really?
If you're having LGBT sex, it's okay. So if you rape a lady, just say you're trans and you'll be fine.
Well, noted. And if I ever get sent to the clink, I've told you, I'm trans. Well, it doesn't work now with Donald Trump. For decades, I'd be like, yeah, that was my cry for help. I'm a woman now. I always was. I was denying my true self, and I would like to be in the ladies' prison. No condoms necessary.
I'm mentally ill.
Let's go to another example of mental illness. PBS. Ugh. I don't like NPR. I don't like PBS. As a matter of fact, I despise them. So I both watch and listen to them regularly. Yes. I have to. My morning update, my briefing is NPR. And boy, you talk about lies by omission. Same thing with PBS. It is propaganda. And by that, I mean, it is content designed to push to forward a social agenda largely funded by the government. Clear enough? So yesterday, getting into a little bit of a tiff with the government because they had to shutter their DEI offices once and for all because of the new policy. Again, winning breakneck speed. Memo to employees was sent out. PBS President Paula Kerger. Oh, yeah, there's a surprise. To ensure that we are complying with the president's executive order, we have closed our DEI office, and Cecilia Loving and Gina Lowe are now leaving PBS. Now, to give you an idea, I remember when Mitt Romney said he wanted to defund PBS, which was the only kind of cool thing he ever suggested. They would say, we receive a very, very small portion of our budget from the government. So PBS's parent company, right, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and you can go check these references. Link in the sidebar. They got $535 million from the federal government for the 2025 budget.
Wow, and they can't buy Oscar the Grouch a real house?
Right, yes, exactly. Well, it's a caste system.
Gotcha.
You don't cast your pearls before swine. PBS received $267 million, as far as we know, on the record. The parent company, $535 million. That is not the legitimate role of government. They should be shuttering DEI, and they should get $0 from the federal government. That being said, my heart does break when you see some of the leaked footage. Employees at PBS have not been taking this news well.
Hi, welcome to Elmo's world. Hi, Cookie Monster.
Hi, Elmo.
Cookie, you're just in time to join Elmo's LGBTQ party.
What does Elmo want to do?
We all go around and talk about how LGBTQ has enriched our daily lives.
Sorry, they just got rid of DEI.
Oh, did they really? Why, oh, why? Fuck me!
Yeah.
Why, oh, why, oh, why? Fuck me! Fuck me! Why, oh, why, oh, fuck me!
And that was written backward from trying to pair up choo-choo with something profane.
We probably could have kept the chugga chugga chugga.
Probably could have kept the chugga 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 chugga. We didn't really need to change that. You know, when you're 5, 6 in the morning, you do what you can. Hey, don't let tax issues overpower you. Like PBS overpower the brains of your children. Contact Tax Network USA for some help, expert guidance. Go to tnusa.com/Crowder. We're about that season.
Yeah.
You know, just keep in mind, this is the government, the same government who thinks that it is a crime against humanity for the IRS to potentially be audited. They will be up your hiney with a sigmoidoscope. Don't make a mistake. tnusa.com/Crowder. You know, we talked enough about ejaculate, so I wanted to clean it up.
Well, now that we're moving DEI from PBS, your alma mater, Arthur, is just going to be all aardvarks.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
yes.
Wow. There's no diversity in Arthur anymore.
My character would have been first to be axed. It was a black bear who celebrated Kwanzaa.
Really?
Yes.
history.
Yes.
Is that what inspired what we see today?
I had to do the Kwanzaa rap. And I was so bad, they cut out the remaining verses and replaced it with background singers. And that's when I discovered how much I hated Kwanzaa. I'd never heard of it. I was 12. I was like, oh, this guy, you mean this was created by a guy named Ron Everett? And he did what to bitches? He beat them with fire hoses and he flooded their mouths with cleaning solution. Oh, he beat them with soldering irons? Wow, this guy's a monster. I found the court records. The point is, it's stupid. I take no pride in my contributions to Arthur.
You still cash the check, though. That $10 a year for that Christmas episode.
I did do the Christmas episode. I'm going to take it to Golden Corral this year, I think.
Oh, very nice.
Happy Kwanzaa.
Happy Kwanzaa! I deserved to get my ass kicked then, and I still do. So the shift in culture. All right. People are talking about Gulf of America. Okay. We've also renamed renamed Fort Bragg. We're going back to that. You may not understand, or some of you may not necessarily be aware, if you're younger, that we at light speed started destroying, tearing down all of our symbols of heritage, statues, plaques that we had in our halls of government, our historical sites, public schools. This happened under Barack Obama. That's where it started. It was a complete reversal of how we treated those who came before us in America. And now we're going back. So it's not just about Gulf of America. It's about the direction we're heading as a country. The same direction we always were moving. It changed for a few years. So I want you to understand, this is a course correction. So under Obama and under Biden, we saw all kinds of examples of this. And I remember back then saying, yeah, okay, it starts with a Confederate flag, but then where does it stop? Abraham Lincoln? And then you saw them go as far as tearing down statues of Abraham Lincoln. But here's a refresher for people who have forgotten what we've been through.
Obama will officially rename the country's tallest mountain during a visit to Alaska this week. Obama will formally change the name of Mount McKinley to Denali.
Fort Bragg will officially be renamed Fort Liberty. Dropping the historic Confederate namesake is part of the post's rebranding.
The main part of it has been removed. The memorial represents the American South and was unveiled more than a century ago in 1914.
The big day has finally arrived. The name Fort Hood has been retired and will now be known as Fort Cavazos.
New this morning, a controversial statue of former President Teddy Roosevelt has been removed from its former perch outside the American Museum of Natural History.
At Interior, we are telling the whole story of America, even when it's difficult, and working to remove hateful and derogatory words from the names of our public lands.
Yeah, except, okay, it started with the Confederate flag. It started with Confederates, and I get it. They lost the war. Slavery's bad. Okay, let's be clear about that. But then it moved on to places like San Francisco, where they were trying to remove presidential names from high schools, including Abraham Lincoln, George Washington.
Idiots.
Yeah, New York City remove Thomas Jefferson, the statue from their council chamber. This really all existed to tear down the institutions of the United States itself. Let's be really clear about that, and this would follow lockstep with Marxism, with what you saw, of course, in communist China. That you've heard of destroy the four olds. Of course, Lane is very passionate about this. Also, the Asian ladies.
To be fair, though, Teddy Roosevelt was coming to life every night.
Yes.
It was an issue.
If you want to issue him a public nuisance citation,
that's something
I
different.
don't have a problem with it. And you could do it to Genghis Khan.
I would argue more to him.
As well as King Tut.
Oh, boy.
It's his fault.
It's a deep cut for people who've seen the series, and I don't feel good about it. But
sorry,
you have to replace... No, it's my fault. The idea of the cultural Marxist, the cultural revolution, is you have to replace everything old with something new. You start with shame. Right? You start with shaming people over their history, over their heritage. And once you tear them down, well, you can erect in your new graven image. And by the way, it doesn't go well if you simply erase the past and never reconcile with, some of your misdeeds. I would argue that America, net positive. You can comment below. To the world at large. Ending slavery, kind of a good thing. Proving that you didn't have to be under the thumb of a monarchy, kind of a good thing. Women's vote? I don't know. Now,
I didn't see any statues to that.
Where we are. Well, how many fat, angry, screeching feminists pushing for prohibition do you need?
Well, they couldn't agree on what to put up.
No, exactly.
The whole meeting was...
It was just a statue of women being catty.
You're going to use her?
Yeah, you go, okay, whatever. Is it pre or post boob job her? Oh, pre, I think. So the new era here is, nope, we're not ashamed to be American anymore. We're not ashamed to be American. You know what? Hey, I think America is a great place, and we're going to plant our flag, and we're going to be proud of our history and where we stand today. And that brings us to the Gulf of America. And we'll give you some more examples, too. It was formerly, feels good to say, Gulf of Mexico.
Yes!
You know who's most happy about it? The Gulf of America.
This follows the president's executive order issuing a name change from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
And we're flying right over it right now. So we thought this would be appropriate. Even bigger than the Super Bowl. This is a big thing.
The Gulf said, whoa, hold your horses. I got a tough act to follow with that one. So look, this is also not new. Since the 16th century, there have been many names. There was the Bay of Mexico, the Gulf of New Spain, the Florida Sea, Gulf of Mexico, and now rightfully the Gulf of America. And if Mexico has a problem with it, come and take it. Good luck.
Name it whatever you want.
Use your navy that you have.
Yes, exactly.
Flotillas don't count as navies. Okay.
So I think this is good. This is progress. And next, it seems they may think about changing the Statue of Liberty back to her original name, Copper Tits.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I don't think that's true.
Bring us your tired, you're horny. Now.
Stop it.
This brings us to another. No. It's not just that's the one that gets the most press. But Fort Bragg became Fort Liberty, and now it's Fort Bragg again. This is a matter of policy, or as the left would say, Project 2025, something. Here's Pete Hegseth, new Secretary of Defense, reinstating the name Fort Bragg.
There it is. Pursuant to the authority of the Secretary of Defense, Title 10, United States Code, Section 113, I direct the Army to change the name of Fort Liberty, North Carolina to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. That's right, Bragg is back.
Like a boy band.
Makes sense.
Good.
It's back. Now,
it's one of our most historic bases, one of our most famous bases.
And it was changed by Biden to Fort Liberty, I believe, in 2023, and that's because it was originally named after a Confederate general, right? Braxton Bragg. Really cool name, by the way. It's like a Mortal Kombat character.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Gen Z name, Braxton.
Braxton, but Bragg is pretty cool.
Bragg is cool.
Yeah. Put it together, Braxton Bragg. Ooh.
The original BB.
Sounds like a damn monster movie. Now, it was named this time after World War II hero Roland L. Bragg. And that even once people found out that little switch, even some anti-Trumpers like Foreign Policy's Emma Ashford she said, huh? That's actually a good compromise.
See? Fair is fair.
Yeah.
You have to destroy stuff.
It is an iconic name, though.
Right. It is.
Fort Bragg has so much history. Did you just keep it Bragg?
I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine that if you were to ask most people who were there, who were stationed at Fort Bragg, they'd say, yeah, I prefer Bragg. It's not that Liberty is, there's nothing offensive about something being called Fort Liberty. It's the intent behind it to erase history because let's judge people from centuries ago by today's cancel culture standard.
Also, like, that's going to have any impact on us at all.
Right.
Like, that's going to fix any problem. By the way, I thought there was maybe a little Trump moment for him. By the power for the Secretary of Defense, that's me.
Yeah.
It has impact on some, like, veterans and military personnel. I know it might sound silly, but just the fact that you're like, yeah, I'm 82nd Airborne. What's that? Oh, that's Fort Bragg. Yeah. Special Forces. Fort Bragg is the home of Special Forces.
Right.
Some other special operations forces.
There's some pride.
Yeah, it's huge.
That's really what it comes down to, is the pride in the name. And we're done being ashamed, even if some people were imperfect. I know you're going to talk about some founding father banging a black chick. I don't care. Now, Mount McKinley is another example. Donald Trump announced, I believe it was January 20th? Was it 21st or 20th?
20th.
I think January 20th. You can check the link in the description for all references, that the name Mount McKinley was going to be restored. This is a matter of policy.
We will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs.
Again, this is something no one would have thought twice about in 1917. They said, okay, the highest peak, North America, we're going to name it after what at that point in time they viewed as arguably one of America's greatest presidents. Right? So it became McKinley. McKinley was, of course, he was a Republican, annexed Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, the Philippines. So a proponent of tariffs. He was assassinated in 1901 by a really weird gun, though that's been scrubbed from history. And of course, Barack Obama hated him. So he renamed McKinley to Denali.
Is that a car?
Yeah, it's a trim, I believe. I don't fully understand. But the Denali, that car's okay. But the name is actually, it's after a Native American word used for the high one, which if the shoe fits.
They had Windex back then? The 70s were talking about it.
He's the high one. You should see his Windex stockpile. Oh,
The media right now is like, I thought you were going to focus on the economy. I thought you were going to focus on things that mattered. I don't remember them saying that when Barack Obama was on the name-changing spree. I certainly don't remember them saying that when Joe Biden, former vice president, of course, respect the office, was allowing people to tear down statues at every turn. I don't remember them saying focus on what really matters. Then I thought this was, oh, the nation is healing. This is good for us. It's finally going to be changed back to an indigenous name for those people. That's fantastic. It's like, what?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
It's one of those deals where I was like, well, why did they have to change Mount McKinley? I'm like, it wasn't like he was a slaveholder. I'm like, they said that Native Americans were upset about it. You know, some native high on Windex looked at it and a single tear came down their cheek.
Why do I have to look at that? It's named after McKinley. That's my people. Call it Denali.
Yeah, that'll
the high one.
No,
I got an uncle named Denali.
That's his prison name.
Yes,
so.
Mine too. Now, here's what it is. It's a reflection of policy. I know that a lot of people hate Biden, but a lot of people, if you haven't been around long enough, Barack Obama, I mean, his wife said that when her husband was inaugurated, it was the first time she was ever proud of her country. That was an administration that wanted to undo centuries of American exceptionalism and move us toward socialism. So it's a reflection that paves the way. It sets the stage for the policy, whether it's Obamacare, whether it's record subsidization for green energy, whether it's giant slush funds, right? Entitlement programs that are unprecedented. It's a reflection of the policy. And you're not going to know the results of the economy for a while.
Yeah, it takes a minute.
We do know under Barack Obama, average household median income or average household income went up about, I believe, $1,400 in 8 years. Donald Trump, $4,400, $4,000 to $4,400, depending on the metric you use. So we know from his first term, we'll be able to gauge that. But right now, we can only know what we see. And we see not only McKinley, and we see not only Gulf of America, and we see not only Fort Bragg, but it's the spirit of Western civilization. For example, he restored the bust of Winston Churchill in the Oval Office, which is kind of shocking to think that someone proactively was angry enough at the idea of the bust of Winston Churchill that they removed it.
There are some like pseudo historians out there who like to claim on pretty big shows that Winston Churchill was actually the bad guy.
Yeah, and he's not a perfect guy.
Necessarily.
Don't get me wrong, not a perfect guy, but he certainly wasn't the worst guy in World War II. When you do have Hitler and Stalin, I know it's a risky position to take.
We needed a bit of a prick to take on those guys.
Especially if you have places in Seattle, we have a statue of Lenin downtown.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, not downtown, Queen Anne, but still.
He created a National Garden of American Heroes. This is a different tenor and tone. And not only is it a different tenor, you're not seeing that much outrage. Aside from the leftist activists, you're not saying that because I think Americans are ready for it. They're going, yeah, okay. You know what? We went a little bit too far on our tear down spree. All right, okay, we can put some of these back up. This is an important step, and it's a reflection of the tenor, tone, that shift. You can comment if that's what you see. That's what I see going on right now. And I do want to get to South Africa. Date, if you're watching, download the Rumble app. That's the best way to stay in touch. You only get notifications of your subscriptions that are live. It is Rumble. We own live. And of course, we continue today on Rumble Premium. Did you? Yes.
Really quickly, I just wanted to make that point because I have seen people talking about the Gulf of America and making fun of President Trump and making fun of MAGA supporters and saying this is the stupidest thing. The world is kind of laughing at us. In a vacuum, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But just like the story that we just told, like that's what matters. It's that it's not in a vacuum. It's part of a campaign of kind of restoring like, hey, it's fine to be proud of these things in our heritage and look at the very good things that we have. Even like you said, some people are imperfect. That's fine. It's also good to learn lessons from these things and to point back and go, this person did a lot of things great, but they did some stuff wrong too. And those are the kinds of mistakes that we're correcting. So Gulf of America may not make a whole lot of sense to people who don't really follow this stuff, but as a total picture, that's the story you need to be telling people.
And it just sounds better.
Back our culture.
But that is a good point. That's a really good point that it doesn't exist in a vacuum. Let me lay this out for you, okay? Let's take Barack Obama and Biden, right? They're kind of one and the same at that point. All right. So when you look at the total picture here, okay, DEI, all right, merit-based. Founding fathers bad? We're not ashamed of our founding fathers. America is no better than any other nation? Gulf of America. Right? The idea of we're going to be subservient to other nations. We're going to put tariffs on nations that are screwing us. Just let's be good. Overall, a good country, and we're not going to continue being screwed, and we're going to be a merit-based system. Versus America bad, forefathers bad, sorry for racism, patriarchy, LGBTQ, AIP, and DEI. These are two fundamentally different worldviews. So whenever someone says, I just take every issue individually, then you will always be myopic and lose the big picture. It's a very bright big picture right now. And I think that's more important than one single election. I hope we keep the momentum going. Speaking of a culture that sucks, though, I will make this statement in pretty much all of Africa. Bad place. Don't like it. Wouldn't want to be there. South Africa's really bad. And for people who don't know what's been going on here, Secretary of State Marco Rubio pulled the U.S. out of the G20, right, in South Africa, citing human rights concerns. Okay. So before we get to that, how much do you know about South Africa? Do you know what's been happening with white farmers there? Do you know that it is, really you're talking about racism and theft from the government predicated on race being codified into law. So for those of you who don't know, we're going to show all those receipts, but here's kind of a general recap.
Disrespectful white man.
They fight, we give them the fight.
Okay. It's a fun little ditty. And by the way, when I say that Africa, South Africa, but most African nations, but certainly South Africa, is a racist government, what I mean is they treat people inhumanely because of their race. I hope I'm clear.
Is that racism?
That's me, Mr. Old-Fashioned. So Rubio said human rights concerns pulled from G20. Again, the different worldview. Green New Deal. G20, internationalism, that's Obama and Biden. No, we're not going to link arms with nations who violate human rights and go against everything that we stand for in this country. But you have a leg to stand on because you're now promoting merit-based government and business in this country. So this weekend, Donald Trump went one step further. President Trump said he'd be cutting all foreign aid to the country. Posted this on Truth Social. He said, South Africa is confiscating land and treating certain classes of people, very badly. It is a bad situation that the radical left media doesn't want so much as to mention. They don't want to mention it. A massive human rights violation is happening for all to see. I lost my wind there. The United States won't stand for it. We will act. Also, because of this, I will be cutting off all aid to South Africa until further notice. And an executive order from President Trump also called for the United States to, you heard that he won't take in refugees, take in and resettle Afrikaner refugees. These are largely the white, Dutch refugees who are responsible for owning a lot of the farms there in Africa, who are actually fleeing a persecutive government, to be clear. Not a crappy country like Guatemala, a government that has, through law and policy, targeted them because of their race. I want to be crystal clear about that. And this has been going on for a long time. Many of you have been blinded by your white guilt. We'll get to this after. Live Aid, you think Freddie Mercury? Yeah, he belted a couple out while he had AIDS. We funded genocide. Do you understand that? Because our money goes to genocidal maniacs. You're not fixing the problem. We have been an accessory to evil. And here to discuss this, and we will have a disagreement, and we will always welcome someone on to have a disagreement, is Democrat Senator Hirono. Okay, Democrat Senator Maisie Hirono, I really do appreciate you taking time.
Aloha, Mr. Crowder.
So, how do the Democrats feel about President Trump ending financial aid for South Africa right now?
Part of my responsibilities as a guest on this show is to ask the following questions.
Actually, I thought I'd ask the question since it's my show, so let me...
Since you become a legal adult, have you ever tried to have sex with a woman with or without consent?
Okay, that's out of left field. I want to ask you more about South Africa.
What kind of woman are you looking for in a sexual partner?
Senator, I hardly think that's...
Do you like your woman to look and smell like a kulua pua?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm not hearing an answer to my question.
I don't know what you're asking me. We need to stick to the topic as to why you are here.
It's a luau pig. Would it help if I put an apple in my mouth?
Okay, I don't feel comfortable with the direction of this, Senator Hirono.
I'm not hearing an answer to my question.
Okay, Tim, I think we can cut this, actually.
Steven, I'm horny.
Wow.
Yeah, she's quite a pervert.
She's a saucy minx.
Yeah, that's
track mind.
Putting it lightly.
Let's get into what is actually happening, I guess, in South Africa. So you hear about the cutting of the funding. Now, the left, again, the worldview, Department of Education, right? The worldview, the IRS. The left's worldview is more money equals more virtue. The only way that you can argue the United States should continually provide financial aid to Africa, South Africa specifically, in the way that we have been, is if you ignore all of reality and say, yeah, but it doesn't matter because we're giving them more money, therefore that makes us better people. Yeah, hold on a second. More money to the Department of Education, that'll fix it. And if it doesn't, it still makes us better people because we're okay giving your money to this department. There can be no case made that any money coming from the United States is being used for anything other than gross abuses of fundamental human rights. Does everyone here understand that? You guys can comment how much you know about South Africa. So last month, the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa, signed the Expropriation Act, right, of 2024. What does this do? This allows expropriation of land without any compensation. Theft.
Yeah, exactly. Expropriation. We get to steal your land.
We get to steal your land.
Fancy words to say steal.
And they get to do it if it is justified. And what falls under that umbrella? Just and equitable and in the public interest. There's that key word, equitable. And remember, I've always said this, you can have equality or you can guarantee equity. A government that says we are going to steal your land in the name of equity, or a government that says we are going to forbid you, even though qualified, from entering this college because of equity. DEI, equity, guaranteeing equity is guaranteeing outcomes which the only guarantee you get is that you will rob people of deserved opportunity. Equal opportunity or equity, you have to pick one. South Africa, the murderous, racist crap hole that it is, has chosen equity. They have chosen tyranny. So it needs to be equitable, right? It needs to be equitable. That's their justification. Well, let me give you some context here. 3/4 of privately owned land in South Africa owned by white South Africans. They make up about 8% of the population. So they're going to be stealing land from white South African farmers in the name of equity. How do they do that? Gunpoint. You starting to get the picture?
Yeah. And they would claim that, it's racism that allowed this inequity to kind of develop. And it's like, okay, so let's just assume that you are correct there. So your solution is more racism?
Right.
You need to make sure that you have enough racism on top of racism to make sure that the racism is equal.
Well,
that's your solution.
Ramaphosa, the president, his defense of it makes it even worse. He said, the recently adopted Expropriation Act, it's hard to say in that voice, is not a confiscation instrument, but a constitutionally mandated legal process that ensures public access to land in an equitable and just manner as guided by the Constitution. So hold on a second. It's equitable to take someone's land and not pay them, to kick them off their own land. Largely because of, how do you justify it being equitable? That's right, race.
And by the way, public access, did you say that the public will have access to this land? No, they won't. Somebody else will own the land. The public is not just going to set up a park where a productive field used to sit that grew some kind of crop. And they're like, well, let's just put some benches and maybe a fountain over there so that the public can access this out in the middle of the country where there isn't much public to access the land in the first place.
What, are you going to have a music festival out there? What's going on?
No, they are going to have a famine festival. That's what's going to happen. Just like in China, right? What happened is Mao said, we're going to put you, they're now your farms. Turns out people who haven't grown up farming, they're not very good at it.
They don't know how.
And so then there was famine. And then Mao had to blame it on the sparrows. And so everyone started killing the sparrows. And the sparrows actually take out the locusts. And so there was just more famine. So it turns out if you try and force equitability by saying, you're black, take the farm. He's like, I don't know how, I don't own a rake. It doesn't work. Famine is what you will see. Also, you have to ask yourself, if it's racism that created this scenario, okay. Hey, black South Africans, you outnumber them. At any point in time, how is it that such a small subset have been so successful in cultivating these crops? 8% of the population. For some examples, I would point to pretty much every other African nation. They've never gotten it right. Not with AIDS, not with freedom, not with basic human rights, not with government. And we've been giving them so much money for so long. It's not any better. So we also have some policy changes here. For example, we're talking about Donald Trump bringing in Afrikaner, I believe is how it's pronounced.
Afrikaners.
Refugees, because in September 2024, Ramaphosa signed a law giving government authority to dictate language used in schools as well. So this law can be used to force schools to stop teaching in Afrikaans, which is the language that a lot of these white South Africans use. Black-owned businesses, they get different market access, preferential market access, because they are black.
That sounds strangely similar to what they were pushing in the Biden administration.
Well, also strangely similar, the government renaming any places that were named after Afrikaners. I'm going to stop saying that. Named after any white people.
There you go. White people.
And by the way, these white farmers, for those of you who don't know, because some clips coming here may not make sense, they're referred to as Boers, B-O-E-R-S. Boer. They're constantly. No more boer. They've been attacked, murdered. Their land has been destroyed with no protection from the government. So I know some of you are going to say, hasn't this been going on for a while? No, there have been murderous mobs who have faced no consequences from the government. But now it's codified into law where the government will be the murderous, tyrannical mob stealing your land.
And by the way, the guys, you can check me on this, but I think they're not allowed to own firearms as well to be able to protect themselves. I think that was one of the big kind of controversies. That there were, roaming groups of marauders killing white farmers indiscriminately, and they couldn't defend themselves.
An anti-gun law in Africa is funny to me.
It kind of is. It almost, an anti, like machete law may be the only thing that's funnier, but
Well, here's what's not funny. We couldn't even, the CIA couldn't even help undergird or fund a coup. Because in Africa, you have a murderous tyrant like Ramaphosa, and then the primary opposition is a would-be murderous communist. So you either get a fascist racist tyrant, or you get a fascist racist communist. So Julius Malema, he's the leader of the primary opposition party there, the Economic Freedom Fighters Party, a Marxist party. They're not a ruling party, but they're incredibly influential. They have a lot of popular support. And so the alternative to the government policy of seizing land of white people, of erasing any history that involves white people in that country, the alternative to that is this Malema character, who I don't like very much the more I learn about him, who is routinely called for blatant violence against, specifically, white people.
Why not Mashaba? Why not Soli and all of that? Because the mayor of DA in PE is a white man.
Someone should tell him who invented the beret.
When you want to hit them hard, go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain because you have touched a white man. Not because Mashaba and Soli will not be touched. They will be touched, don't worry. But we are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness.
Now, I know what you're saying. Hey, That was taken out of context. So then here's another clip of Malema chanting. Remember, the Boer are white farmers. Kill the Boer.
Kill the Boer. The farmer. Kill the Boer.
Maybe he doesn't mean shoot.
The farmer.
Oh.
Is that the Super Bowl?
Defend that one.
I think he does mean shoot.
Pull a Biden.
I said bullseye, not target.
I said slice the throat and kill the Boer. I didn't say whatever you thought I said.
No, I said kill the poor.
That's right.
Wait,
that's me.
No.
Now, in his defense, he also, no one is all good or all bad. He also did crucify, personally, Leonardo DiCaprio for the worst South African accent in film ever.
In America it's bling bling, but out here it's bling bang, huh?
He did that. And then my brew the whole time in that movie.
Oh, I hated that movie because of him.
So this guy, again, the very influential opposition leader there, he also loves retweeting his own propaganda posts from Jackson Hinkle.
What?
Homo.
So this is from Jackson Hinkle saying, Julius Malema is one of the most lied about men on earth.
Oh, yeah?
The media hates Malema because he is fighting the banks. Okay, but here's the thing. I don't hate him because he's fighting the banks.
Mm-hmm.
I dislike him. Hate is a strong word, because he has said, slice the throats of white people and kill the white people. Pra, pra, pra.
Attention. Don't forget. Attention.
Yes.
At the very end.
That's a very paunchy soldier.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's too quick, man. We're trying to bra bra over here.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what their rate of fire is. This is it's not about him. It's not about him fighting banks. Think of the propaganda from the left at this point. And this is the problem. If you are misinformed, and I have not seen them cover this on CNN at all. As a matter of fact, I haven't seen almost any media cover it, which is why I had to brush up on making sure I pronounce the names hopefully properly, because I've only read them. I have not seen it.
You actually got it wrong. It's Malemo.
I get it. Hey, that's not my name. I'm not lame, you're lame.
It is now.
I am rubber, you are glue.
Oh, boy.
We have no more glue. Shortage. White farmers were good at it. We got rid of it.
Still gross.
I sniffed it.
I sniffed it. So if you don't know what has happened in South Africa, you would think, why are we cutting off aid to poor black people? Donald Trump, racist. No, we're no longer going to be assisting and funding arguably, maybe not genocidal yet, but would be genocidal and certainly currently tyrannical regimes predicated on racism. That is what we've decided we are not going to support. You actually may have people out there who believe still today in 2025 that My God Live Aid was anything other than a travesty of human rights. You just don't know. You don't know because you don't realize how bad it is. Anywhere else that's not the United States of America. Here's the thing, you don't have to. You just need to know that we're not going to fund it. The starting off point should be someone needs to justify to this country why they get any money. And it should be a really, really high bar to clear.
And a good presentation.
Yes, a good presentation.
A nice video or a slideshow, maybe a live presentation.
Yes. We don't have PowerPoint. Are you okay with the whiteboard? Fine, I'll allow it. You see the throat being sliced?
That's the whole whiteboard.
This is the Boer. I'm killing him. You see on the, so more money. No, that's fair.
Prefer a blackboard instead of a whiteboard.
It's a high bar to clear. And before we get to, hold on a second, is it really in our self-interest to help fund a proxy war in Ukraine? Or is it really in our self-interest to, for example, be the only nation contributing what we are to NATO? Before we get to that, and I do think those are legitimate discussions to have, and my opinion on both of those would be no, we certainly shouldn't be arguing about the idea of our government handing over any money to someone who is telling us that they will use it to rob their citizens and potentially kill them. Actually, you may not know this, African-American, formerly South African, Elon Musk, hates Malema so much he actually called for him to be sanctioned on X, saying that immediate sanctions for Malema and declaration of him as an international criminal are the steps that we need to take. And what's that?
Did Elon really change his name to Harry Bowles?
He did.
Good for him.
Classy. All right. Sorry.
Everyone always wants to tell you it's nuance. This is not nuance. Okay? There are good allies, Japan, Argentina, El Salvador. We treat them well. There are bad nations out there that commit acts of evil. They get nothing from the United States. It's really that simple. And again, for those of you who have forgotten, in South Africa, the white folks there have been the direct victim of targeting systemically and robbing. It's been pretty tough for them.
Disrespectful white man.
If they give the fight, we give them the fight.
We're going to talk about Live Aid because I think that's an important precursor to this. Again, it might as well be called the White Guilt Festival.
I really want to dive into that because I never knew the history of that.
Oh, yeah. The reasons for it were complete bullcrap. The results were terrible. Yeah. The person behind it is awful. And if you're not, of course, Mug Club is Rumble Premium. Rumble Premium is Mug Club, $99 annually, $9.99 a month. You get this show, 100% more. You get the Friday show, Nick DiPaolo, Mr. Guns and Gear, Dr. Disrespect, Donald Trump Jr., all of it ad-free. We continue for another hour or 45 minutes to an hour every day. We're going to be talking about Live Aid. But you know what? I actually think as it relates to, at a certain point, I know people say racist. Hey, South, you've never gotten it right, ever? Not even close? People talk about after this cradle of civilization. Yeah. Then why does it still suck? And what do I mean by suck? I mean that people in African nations are worse off than people in Western nations as the direct result of the policy, representation, governments, in many instances, not all, that they have asked for. Why have you always sucked? And why would any American, African Americans, you want to call it, let me know, why would any American want to associate with the lesser of their identity? Do you know what's going on? If you were an alien who landed on Earth right now and you just looked at the globe, you'd ask what's wrong with that entire continent. And then you certainly would ask the question, wait, this place with all the lights on, this place with high-speed rails, this place where they have basic human rights, they're funding the darkening, the lack of technology, the lack of human, of this place? What kind of a planet is this? Do they know what their money does when it goes to these places? These would be the questions that you would ask yourself. The only reason that we haven't is because it's the same reason that right now you're going, oh, Crowder might get in trouble. Fine. White guilt. That's all it is. The United States is better than South Africa. North America, including Canada, and I don't like to give them any praise, far better than the continent of Africa. Pick a nation, any nation there. No, they still suck.
Mexican pyramids are better than Egyptian pyramids.
What?
Yep. I stand by it, Gerald.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. I stand by it as well.
You have no idea what the pyramids are in Mexico.
A little bit.
I saw the ruins temples. I think it's pretty cool.
I saw Apocalypto. They're probably pretty cool. I know that's not Mexico.
They didn't bleed anybody else out on the Giza pyramid, did they?
Right. Yeah, exactly. That is a fantastic. I think actually, this is where you can look to comedy. Remember, Sam Kinison got so much crap for this, where he touched on this, I want to say back in the 80s, at the latest early 90s, about the famine in Africa. And we'll get to Live Aid, but I think we were able to pull this clip. Sam Kinison.
There wouldn't be world hunger if you people would live where the food is!